All right, Kevlar Faithful, welcome on into the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am live right after the conclusion of game one of the second round of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Your Cleveland Cavaliers unfortunately drop game one in Cleveland, 121 to 112. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk. We're going to discuss what I saw. First of all, what the audience saw as a Cavalier fan, and then I want to talk about how the Cavs can win game two. It's not. I don't think it's exactly rocket science. But we'll talk and discuss. So, oh man, where am I going to start? I haven't had a Cavs like moment in a while where I've had to get on here and rant. So bear with me if it's something that's not completely organized because I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. The game really just concluded. Look, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to start with this. The Miami Heat that we handled in 4 games, that they are not a very good team. They were the 10th seed in the East. I don't know how many times I have to come out here and talk about this. Miami was not very good. Okay, you took care of business there. Perfect. You lost the plot coming into game one. And listen, I'm gonna sound like the world is over and is burnt on fire. I'll put this out here for really quickly as a disclaimer. I still think the Cavs win this series. I still think I had a pre-series prediction of 6 games. Maybe it's up to 7. I don't know. I still think 6 games is doable for the Cavaliers. You have a terrible night shooting the basketball from deep. You can't defend the 3-point line. Some of it is magnet ball by the Pacers. There's some stuff in the third and fourth quarter where they're chucking shit up, and it's like, shouldn't low percentage shots going in. The first half, the defense was terrible, not closing out, not rotating, and people don't even know who they're guarding. In my opinion, some of these deep possessions, whatever. Number 2, let me get into the box score here. I think that's probably the best place to start. Let me get into the box score because trust me, for some guys, and it's going to look good for some guys, but you're not going to hear the slander and you're not going to hear the constructive criticism. It's not slander. Like you're down 0-1, you're favored in the series. You're the 1 seed. You're playing against the 4 seed, who, by the way, had longer and better playoff experience than you last year. That's another thing they forgot. You got to remember who you are. I get it. You're the 1 seed, 60 plus wins, all these accolades, coach of the year, defensive player of the year. Look, you still haven't done anything. In my personal opinion, I thought that this team, kind of took that seriously all year. You'd hear it in post-game pressers. You hear it, days that they were off and blah, blah, blah. And, you haven't done anything yet, and getting a couple all-stars and being the 1 seed. And, that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day to me. You want to hoist the Larry O'Brien. You want to be the 2025 NBA champs. And we're a long way from that. Trust me. You just dropped game 1 at home. You just lost home court advantage against the Pacers, who are a good team. They're not better than you, though. They're not better than us, man. They're not better than us. Let me MZC, Yanni, Fulam, the Resurgence in the chat. What are we saying here? 50 field goal attempts for Jerome and Mitchell. Like, that's what I want to go to. Because people, we have this weird polarized world where it's like, oh, you only looked at the box score. You didn't watch the game. You don't know how this. Oh, he was a lot better in the game and blah, 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 blah. Donovan, 13 of 30. Guys, like, really? Like, was he our best player today? Yes, he was. If we're doing if we're making statements of fact, was he the Cavs' best player today? Sure. He was 13 of 30. They show the little thing at the bottom. Longest streak, not 9 games of 30 plus points in game 1s to start playoff series. I really would hope that you could score 30 if you take 30 shots. Inefficient. People are going to, that Donovan's the least of our worries. Jerome is the least of our worries. 21 points, 8 of 20 for Jerome, 1 from 4 from 3. Jerome and Donovan combined for 2 of 15 for 3. Let's run that math really quick. I was never a good math student. 13%. Donovan and Jerome were 13% from the three-point line. Here's the thing. It's not that I'm trying to talk negative about these guys. It's that everything that made the Cavs so elite this year just went out the window today. And that's going to happen. That's fine. As long as the philosophy and the philosophical, nature of the team doesn't change, that's fine. But there weren't great signs tonight. It's not like there was great signs where it's like, yeah, Indy played good. Don't get me wrong. Is Indy going to be able to replicate this shooting the whole series? No. The Cavs, like I said, the sky's not falling, even though it's going to sound like I think it is. But you have been efficient all year long. Here's my number one point. You have been efficient all year long, and then you turn around and do this. 13% from three from your guards, from your primary guards. Pacers made 93. None of them are wide open, but yes. You don't need to lose the attitude after missing back on D. Cost them at least 10 points not getting back. I don't know if I wasn't adding up the points, but MZC, I actually totally agree with you. I thought that like I said, like my previous statement, the preface to this, for a franchise that hasn't done anything since 2016, and granted, 2017, 2018, like I understand, like I'm being hyperbolic, but like follow along here. Come walk with me. You haven't won anything since 2016. Besides a couple of rounds of the playoffs and a couple awards and the skills challenge at All-Star Weekend in Cleveland in 2022, you haven't won anything. Okay. I thought they were cocky today. I totally agree with you. Thought they were. I thought Strus is bitching at the refs. Thought Jerome is like, and look, if you're playing Miami, here, let me come closer. If you're playing Miami, because I need them to hear this. If you're playing Miami, shit, even if you're playing Boston, and look, this is game one. I knew this was going to happen. Listen to our pregame podcast. I said that this was going to happen because, the total pace of play, 180. Justin, I'll get you in here. Don't worry. I'll get you in here. But I don't know if you want to be associated with my mental state right now. You can't stand there and bitch at the ref against Indy. They're too quick. Their pace of play is too fast. You're giving up a 5-on-4. I don't know how many times where we scored and they're down the floor and like the cameraman is late. TNT was terrible today too. If anybody, just a little side tangent, whoever was working the scoreboard was intoxicated. The announcer saying, "Oh, how many times they say his foot was on the line?" I'm like he looks way behind the line every single shot. They look behind. TNT was terrible as well. All right, Justin, good. We need you kind of locked in here. I need to put my headphones on too. But hold on here. Let me get my little intro out. Let me get my soliloquy out, and then I'll bring you in. Number 2. Well, that's my thing. Lose the attitude. Be humbled now. You're down 1-0. This could be the best thing for the Cavs. That's what a lot of people aren't going to take away from this. This could be the best thing for us, is this nonsense performance in game 1. When you're the clear favorite, 8.5-point favorites, lose the game outright. I mean, come on. Absolutely unbelievable. And it's really not unbelievable, even though I say that, because it's like I said, Miami was basically 4 regular season games just attached to the postseason. So yeah, when you run into a team that's actually good, had playoff experience from last year, could shoot the 3 ball, is physical. That's another thing that's not going to be mentioned, I don't think, is that the Indiana Pacers are extremely physical. You got Hunter taking spills, Don's on the floor, every other possession in the second half. It felt like nothing was easy for him. That's how you play playoff basketball. I'm sick of the people in my mentions too saying, Benedict Mathurin is so dirty. No, he's not. He is not. Contesting, they didn't call it a foul on the floor, and then on the challenge, on the Hunter play, they didn't call it a foul. And I think the NBA officiating is the worst officiating league in everything, cricket, soccer, MLS included. And I thought they got that call right. All right, Justin. Boston fan listening in. You're probably loving this. You're probably enjoying it. You're probably having a really good time. Welcome on in from a Boston fan. If you could hit the like button, at least if you're going to sit there and laugh at me behind your screen, which I totally think that's justified to do because, I'm going to sound a little bit unhinged, but you could at least hit the like button for your boy. or whatever platform you're on. Like, subscribe, whatever it is. All right, Justin, link is coming over to you. And then I want to get to Fulam's point here because I think he makes a good one, even though I'm not going to totally comment on like on exactly what he's saying, but I want to talk about it. And then we'll get to the Ultimate Sports Show, what he has to say next. Garland going to be this year's Jarrett Allen regarding the toe injury, or he's going to have an oh crap moment so he just can't sit out till he's 100%. It's the damn playoffs. I totally agree with your sentiment. Here's my issue. And yes, it's a toe injury. You know, here's what I'm going to say. Unfortunately, I think Darius playing on an injured toe is just, it's not going to be helpful. Not with how fast this team gets up and down the court. And again, people are going to take this out of context and go, oh, you can't stand Darius Garland. You probably think that we're better without him. You probably think that we should trade him in the offseason. I'm not saying these things. Like, that's not coming out of my mouth. I'm just telling you, if he has a lower body extremity injury, which he does, he was limping the last game he played before he exited. Now he's been 3 DNPs. It's not like this is hangout number 1 where he didn't play. He didn't play game 3 and game 4. It didn't matter against Miami. But in game 1 here, the way this Indiana team plays, I don't even know if it's worth it to try to trot him out there. I'm not opposed to the thought like, hey, we're going to give you, the first burst of the first quarter before we call a timeout and before we make subs to see how you could hang with this up and down movement. But I want to be completely honest with everybody. The Cavs looked out conditioned today. I don't think that's a very controversial statement. Indy was moving better. It's like third quarter and like we got hands on knees. Like Donovan looked gas. I know he's carrying the operation. Mobley looked gas. That's another thing we're going to talk about when I bring Justin in here. And I knew this was going to happen. I knew this shit was going to happen, but Mobley, 9 of 13 for 20 points. And yes, he was a negative 20 on the plus minus. I get that. But he was 9 of 13 for 20 points. I'd have to go and check the amount of times he had the ball in a scoring position in the fourth quarter. I seen him take one pull-up 3 that I wasn't a fan of. And besides that, it didn't matter. The Evan Mobley getting phased out in the fourth quarter, I'm not a fan of. Joining us here on the Cleveland Pulse post-game show after the Cavs take a first game loss to the Indiana Pacers, my co-host Justin Harold.
Yes, sir.
Please take this over for me.
Yeah, no, very disappointing loss, 121 to 112. Obviously, there was a point in time in that third and in the fourth quarter where it seemed like the Cavs could take the lead that they had and expand on it. But ultimately, they lose in a game where, Jeff, we talked about a lot of things in that pregame that kind of just came back and immediately
came true.
Yeah. Especially what you made the point of with like the broadcast of like we'd score a basket and instantly the Indiana Pacers would be down the court and almost laying the ball up into the net before the camera ever gets down to the other side. They shot the ball incredibly well from 3-point. Something that, again, I think we made mention to at least that they weren't the greatest 3-point shooters, but shooting 52% to our 23.7% is quite the disparity. And the game only ends up being a 9-point loss. So what to really get into here? I think the Donovan stuff, you're just going to have to live with it. And what that game ended up being, I don't think he was the problem. I'm going to be honest. This was probably the first time I was really upset with Ty Jerome because I think
I totally agree, actually. And he had good points. He had good output, but I want to push back on something really quick here because look, this is the question I want to ask you because the whole living with the Donovan thing. I hear where you're coming from, but my question to you is, did Donovan Mitchell tonight, game 1, did he remind you more of Donovan Mitchell during the regular season this year? Or did he remind you more of Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, 1,000% last year. I just think that the takes that you saw him driving to the basket, I sent the text message of like, oh man, he's finally kind of getting like those Brunson calls. I didn't say that exactly. I said he was getting like all-star type calls, which I don't think he was getting a whole lot of his first year or his second year here. And so he was just like, again, I hate seeing the freight train like layups where it's like, yeah, that's never going to have a chance going in because you're going a million miles an hour just trying to draw a foul. And it's typical when everything else is going for him. He loves to shoot the three ball at a miss. Like it's just so typical that he goes 1 for 11 from 3-point. Like again, he missed.
Not a good shooting night.
That's how he made 12 other shots the entire night and went almost like about 40-ish%, but he chose to continue to shoot the three. Yes. There's got to be a point in time where Kenny has got something. He's got to point it out. He's got to be like,
the broadcast said something in the fourth when he took a three and missed it, and then they were like, oh, he pointed toward the bench. The next time he came down and made a layup.
The team really just like disgusted me today because I was just like,
I totally agree.
Honestly, like, I just feel like they weren't prepared. Like,
yep.
It's tough to say that. It's like, here's what I'll say. Seeing the Darius Garland not going to play today was super deflating right away for me. I'm wearing his jersey and everything. I didn't take it off because I thought it would be bad luck, but I probably should have.
What do you think about my assessment of him trying to return, though?
I listened into that. I'm going to be honest with you. My thought is he's going to come back. This is the hope. He's going to come back for game 2, and the Pacers aren't going to shoot 50% from 3-point line, and will probably win by double digits. Is my thought as of right now. Has nothing. Darius coming back plays into that a little bit. The way we defended the 3-point line tonight was disgusting. The amount of no wonder the Pacers shot 50%.
I don't think they contested a three, Justin, until like the third quarter.
You look at the threes that they took. Dude is hopping on his leg, like taking a 28-footer because he's so wide open. It's like, come on, guys. Like, and jumping, like sliding, like all these things that like we're so used to them not doing.
Yes.
Like it was just stupid how much that was apparent tonight. And again, that's why I'm like, maybe when Garland doesn't come back for game 2, if you clean up their 3-point defense, the Cavs 3-point defense, one much closer game throughout the entirety of the thing.
You might actually have a lead and be able to build a lead.
Yeah, and 2, like again, then it doesn't allow Halliburton to do those stupid drives into the fucking paint. Like I said, it would happen. Those
little floaters,
dude. I was almost laughing if they weren't winning at points when I was watching and thinking this to myself. I was like, man, he's like this. He's not even the guy holding the ball at the beginning of plays anymore. Like he is not even that feared as an offensive like weapon for them. Like Nembhard and Nesmith, those
not as a shooter. He's more threatening as a passer. He really is, and that's more credit to him.
But they took the ball out of his hands a lot.
He had 10 assists though. He had double.
I know. It's just like, again, he's the guy that I said it in the preview. I feel like you allow everything else around him to just work, and yeah, he's going to end up with that double, even if he's not scoring a whole lot.
So what I'm hearing there is you were not a fan of the effort.
Well, the effort, I mean, like, I don't know that Kenny. I don't know. I don't know what you change coaching wise in the rotations, because I think he tried to bring Okoro in and have him, try to assert himself defensively. But this was a game where defense just did not show up. It just did not show up at any point in time. You weren't impressed by Hunter. You weren't impressed by Wade. You weren't impressed by Okoro. I don't think you were really like super impressed by
Don't get me
like
started
even
with
I was
Toro.
again. Of course, on the night that you give him the award, he looks the least amount like the defensive player of the year. Evan, like,
But if you want to beat us, Justin, if you want to beat us, and like this is the modern NBA, so I don't think this is like a huge like newsflash for teams or organizations or people who like know basketball. But like tonight is how you beat them. You can
dude,
just
they swung the ball so well.
He's not. How many did he have any blocks tonight?
Evan,
Am I missing something?
So.
He had no blocks. Like I don't even remember him. Like he contested a couple shots, but it's like there wasn't even any shot. Anything that was down there was either in between like the mid range and the close range. There was a floater, regardless of who it was. The formula to negate Evan Mobley was very clear tonight. And I'm glad you said this. Take shots at the 3-point line. Your shots down low were just all optimal high-level shots. It's not like they were contesting him at a high level, which is what I thought Miami did very stupidly. If there was any analysis from the Miami series, I thought that they inflated our defense's ego because they were just stupid on the offensive end of the court. That's neither here nor there. And I agree with you. Pete, and this is what is going to be a little startling about this series, and I feel like this happens in the playoffs every year, and I hope not to be wrong, but there will be a game. With the way Indy is so streaky shooting the basketball, in my opinion, when I say streaky, it's not like they're bad. It's just like if they don't hit shots,
they could be hitting like 121 or they could be hitting 100 points.
They look pedestrian. They had a 5-minute stretch in this game where they almost didn't score, and they still beat us. And I still think their offensive output could get worse from this, obviously. I really do feel like there will be a game where we win by like 30 in this series.
The Cavs went on multiple like 16-5 runs and still could not gain a lead or sustain a lead. And so like again, I think the problem with this Pacers team is very much what you saw. They run the court really, really well. To Jeff's point,
amazingly.
To Jeff's point, I don't know that they were overly physical, but our guys kind of showed like a little bit of like sensitivity, I'll say, because like each time I saw Hunter go down, I'm like, man, he's really hurt. But he was selling it like a soccer player,
Yep.
Like he was like
that time Allen took a spill, like that was a hard foul, but I was
this
team's
tough.
Getting banged up.
That one was tough, and that one was one like, oh shit, like that was you were worried about. But I think that the overall feeling is they played extremely well. The Pacers did. They had a couple of errant shots here and there, but overall they swung the ball just ludicrously well. Like
yes.
the
They're
amount
well
of time,
coached.
The amount of times I was just like watching our guys scramble on defense, I was like, this doesn't happen. That didn't happen much during the regular season, except for during this series where the Pacers pretty much handled us. So,
and you saw Boston a little bit too, but
yeah, I mean, you're not going to even have to worry about Boston if you don't let if you let the Pacers continue like this. But yeah, I mean, that's got to be true. I mean, at the end of the day, like if you're able to get up and be on the bench and move around, be jovial and whatnot, I'm of the mindset of like, I know what you're saying. Like, if he's not 100% with this toe injury, like it's only going to get worse through the playoffs. But
let me clarify.
But dudes have played on torn MCLs, torn ACLs, stuff like that.
And I know it's corny, but like everybody gets. I know it's corny. I know, and like rest in peace. I get it. And everybody gets compared to Kobe. Like, oh, Kobe would have played through it, but like it's true. Like it's like the dog. Like like the dog in you. And I will say, let me reiterate my point here because it sounds like I may have not be articulating at a high level. I agree with this. I think he should try to play. I'm just trying to reset my mind to the fact that with this injury, if this injury is as sensitive as it's being touted to be, which I don't disagree with. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. I've never had a big toe injury in all my years of sporting. I don't know if you have had one, Justin. I don't probably think you've had either. But at the end of the day, you gotta try to play. But with the amount of up and down that this series is going to be, and with how sensitive it is, I think it's a little bit of copium from the Cavs faithful to be like, yeah, we didn't have Garland, but he'll be back. What makes you think that, like, with this injury and this play style of the series, that is going to even, what are the odds that even works out?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the only reason I feel like, again, it's just a plus to get him back in some senses. The big negative that I can take away from tonight is Indiana's no slouch in the sense of like
Absolutely not.
recognizing the situation. Jared Allen goes down, takes that spill, but they're running the court instantly.
They got a got a bucket off of that.
And then after, they get a bucket. We come back down. I don't think we score. What do? They go and they pick on Jared Allen.
Yep.
Again,
they're
like
smart.
It's one of those things where it's like, guys, you got to watch the simple things of like Miami's well coached. Don't think they've got the talent. Indiana is well coached and has the talent. So,
yes. And has the conditioning.
And has the experience. And as a team who is currently on, it's hard to say that they're on the rise and not just at the risen point because they're the number one seed. They're young, but they have to at some point make strides beyond just the simple, last year we were in the play-in.
Yes.
Last year we're in the first round. Last year we're in the first round. Now we're in the second round. Okay.
Your runways in the league don't exist like that. They really just
Indiana
don't.
took the jump last year.
Yep.
Indiana was not in the Eastern Conference the year before. They were not.
I mean, you got to look at Atlanta. Atlanta was in the Eastern Conference Finals 2021 or 22. Now they're looking to go into full rebuild mode. Like, yes, I understand. If you want to commend Kobe Altman, and now we're projecting this out the long way, yes, has he built this team up to be able to compete for a couple of years? Sure, he has, but you got a lot of people whose salaries have gone up. And another thing, too, and people can go, I could hear the bitching from here, but it's like the East is soft, man. This Indiana team does not have a tier 1 guy. Boston does not have Boston is not a super team. There's not you don't have imagine being a fan of other teams that weren't the Cavs in the East from when LeBron returned to when he left for LA. You go into the season knowing that you have no chance unless LeBron James gets hurt, which he never got hurt ever, to make it to anywhere past wherever unless you ran into him. It's not like that. You don't have Curry and KD on the same team.
I understand that. Here's the thing that I love about
soft.
No, here's the thing that I love about the era of basketball that we're entering into.
The era.
The era of super teams is very much out of here. And thinking that you can just I loved how the Lakers season ended because they ended up being the 3 seed. They ended up having
their bums.
Everyone thinking, they look unstoppable after making that Luka trade. The Dallas Mavericks look so awful. Everyone gets injured on that team. The best player on that team is out. Kyrie Irving, best player on that team. He might have been the best player in the finals for them last year. I digress, but it's one of those things where it's like the old guard is phasing out. Steph, I believe the
new era, this generation, this era is coming to a close. I totally agree with you.
The Warriors are playing. I've talked about them potentially being a sneaky team this year in the playoffs, but they're currently fighting for their lives against Houston.
You're getting close to the Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker match. I hear you. I understand you. It's actually nice, and I like those guys too. But it's like LeBron, Curry. Who else?
They're phasing out, and unfortunately, you look at the teams right now. Obviously, the Thunder are going to be playing their series next. They're the young team on the West. We're the young team on the East. But there are still teams that are like the Timberwolves, who are a team that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They made a significant change to their roster, and where many of us thought, me included, they made a huge mistake trading for Julius Randle and DiVincenzo.
I agree with you.
But they come out of that series with the Lakers. They look really, really good. Ant is that top tier, top 3 player where I think, to Jeff's point, On the East, Brunson doesn't hit that level. Tatum doesn't hit that level. On our team, Donovan doesn't hit that level. If we're really going to look at it, the West probably has the top 3 players in the playoffs right now. I'd go Steph. I'd probably go Ant, and I'd probably go Jokic. That being said, the teams on the East are so well-rounded that this is why the Pacers are going to be such an interesting matchup. The team is just so much like ours that we're going to run into the issue of their starting lineup was probably the most perfect stat line you could look at, and their bench also contributed. What does that sound like? That sounds like what the first round playoffs was for the Cavs, where their starters just kind of handled business. They had a couple of guys come off the bench, really dominate. So,
but none of these guys are Hall of Famers, though. I mean, Nesmith, Nembhard, they're good basketball players, but they're not Justin, you agree with me? You have 0 tier 1 guys. We have 2 tier 1 guys, in my opinion. If you're winning Defensive Player of the Year, you're a tier 1 guy. You might not be at the top,
but in terms of tier 1, they're Donovan and Evan's probably at the very bottom right now because he's blossoming into it.
And Don's in the middle.
The tiers are very much stagnated now because guys like LeBron, who just had his own tier, Kevin Durant, who was right there, Steph Curry right there.
Yep.
Those players don't currently exist because anyone who I would put in that category, Wemby, is someone who will get there eventually.
He's the hasn't mattered in the playoffs ever yet.
Yeah, and he's progressing into that
Ant is
tier.
Same level as Don,
but he's better than Don.
I don't know. They're both. I don't know. Trust me, I like Anthony Edwards a lot. I'm not trying to be a homer. I don't.
That's an interesting thing.
He's younger, I believe, but it's I see him. And this once again, everyone's got to calm down. But it's I see him having a similar career trajectory than Don. Being a really good playoff performer and winning nothing.
Could be his year.
Don has won. I love Don, and I'm glad that he came here. I'm glad that he re-signed. I'm glad for Altman traded for him. Don't get me wrong, Don has won nothing in his career. He's won nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he'll continue to be the 5th guy on the MVP list every year. Every year. But here's the thing. This is a kind of interesting little conversation we're getting into. But it's young. Half of being young is also half of it is age. 50% of it is age. 50% of it is what are you getting paid. If you have young guys who are on super maxes, it doesn't matter how old they are. The salary cap doesn't go, oh, we're going to give you 50 more million because all your guys are 23. It's helpful. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather have a guy who's 24 or 25 on a super max than a guy who's 30. I'm not an idiot. I wasn't born yesterday. But it's and Matt, I agree with you. Resident Boston fan checking in. C's had to go to the Eastern Conference 4 times to get the chip. We're here telling you that the Cavs haven't been once. Yeah. I think a lot of the questions that typically arise
this iteration of the Cavs. Sorry.
No, yeah, of course. The problem with this Cavs team is, again, a lot of times what we talked about at the beginning of not the beginning of the preview, but when we had the preview going on was when you look at the Cavs team from an outsider's preview, you look at Donovan first.
Yep.
And then you kind of go okay, is it Evan Mobley or is it Darius Garland that we're really supposed to be afraid of? People would,
and with Garland being out.
Well, and I think people would probably go and tell you, oh, Darius Garland's a 2-time All-Star. He's probably the guy that you should be worried about the most. But again, we've, as Clevelanders, known that Evan Mobley's trajectory is unicorn-esque, is something that could be I don't want to put it on him that he could be like this. But again, Kevin Garnett, guys who truly have an impact and a lasting effect on the league. You saw him at some point in the game tonight just take a straight up 3 and sink it, and it felt at that moment in the time of the game, the momentum was swinging. Yep. Jeff made a point. He was 9 of 13 the entire game, and it felt like he could just keep going. And in a lot of games in the regular season, he could just keep going, and he doesn't get the ball. And this is what we talked about, and I think I mentioned it, was this is where Donovan, without Darius, gets a little bit scary because he just starts taking shot after shot after shot after shot. And even with what the NBA has turned into today, what the world has turned into with sports in general, with analytics, the fact that you couldn't pull Donovan to the side and go, listen, buddy, you're 1 for 7. You're 1 for 8. You're 1 for 8. Go to the hole. Quit pulling up. Quit taking wasted shots. Because, again, I understand it. He's the star. He's the best player on this team in this moment and best player in the game for maybe both teams. You got to know what is working and what is not. Yep. And you can't just have the coach be the guy to direct that during the game because you don't have an infinite amount of timeouts to use. Both teams wasted their timeouts on challenges tonight, which is a very interesting thing. I was very shocked that we used ours on the play that we did because
that was a bad challenge. I agree.
I think again, you get kind of swept up in the moment, in the emotions of being at home and everything. But that was one of my more Kenny, what are you doing moments. But again, you have to have a moment where Donovan is the most seasoned player, probably going back to when he was with the Jazz. He is probably the most seasoned playoff player in this series right now. Even if Haliburton has made it to the finals and whatnot, he's
most playoff minutes. He probably
he's better
has
than Haliburton. He's had more minutes. He should be able to take the game over in the way that this is going to make people upset. Where Brunson gets to his mid-range shot, and it's just money every time. Donovan, I feel like he knows
I agree with you.
He can get to the rim better than most players, and he'll settle for the worst, last 5 seconds of the shot clock 3. And of course it clunks and we're running back on defense.
And that's not all on Donovan. I give the credit to Indy because every time he was going in there, I felt like he was on his wallet or sliding up into the basketball stanchion. I wouldn't want to go back in there either. But at some point, the playoffs are the playoffs are the playoffs. Physicality is going to ramp up. The calls are going to tighten. The whistles are going to, you can't bait as much. You can still bait. You can still bait a little bit. I don't think the refs are very good at
getting some call. The call that he got at the top left of the 3, where it was the most James Harden call I've ever seen. Somebody who will not be named texted me Donovan Harden. Regardless if it's someone for our team. And let me ask
it's
I watched the game with my dad.
Yep.
Let me ask you, did it just seem like Jerome was taking 3 steps on multiple occasions for a lot of his
Dude, Jerome's he's a baiter too, low key.
Dude, his unacceptable amount of crying and moaning and today was so
much whining.
But I thought he was getting away with 2 to 3 travels this game because he
does that little slow down motion and it looks a little suspect.
The gather this day and age is wild.
But I'll do you one better, just taking out this box score, and then I'll make a final point about Donovan, give you my final thoughts, then throw it to you. We'll wrap up here. But in my opinion, and yes, I have a couple issues actually. Assist leader on the team, Jerome with 8. Mitchell with 4. I need more. If Darius is out, I need more than
an issue.
I need more than 4 from him. I get it. You're not a point guard. You're not a true number 1, but you need to. You're your best when you're playmaking and distributing. 4 assists. Make the proportions make sense.
This is 30 where you start
shots and 4 assists.
This is where you start calling out specific players, and
I can't.
They have roles on this team, and their roles need to expand. Max Strus. Listen, I like Max. I think he's a hustle player and everything. When that dude's not knocking down threes, he is the most irrelevant player on the court.
Couple of steals, couple of breakups in transition, not a total. But I hear what you're saying.
But he's hustling. But when he's taking
come on, what about 2 points from Okoro in 15 minutes?
In the top right corner of the game, at the end of the game, he comes off of it he thinks he's going to be wide open. And I don't know if Indiana had it scouted out or whatever.
Yeah,
but
blocked.
two
The one he got
guys
blocked.
jumped up.
Yes.
And he gets it blocked. Like, it was such a.
They were ready for that play.
It was
Carlisle watches film.
Dude, it was such an unnecessary, like you have full permission that as soon as the ball touches your hands, pull it. And I was just like, dude, we have it was at least 3 minutes, if not less, like on the clock of like when we took that shot.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's the look we're taking
that
right
look
now.
Was bad. That look was bad.
There is moments where
there was a Mobley transition pull up 3 in the fourth that I didn't agree with. There was a Jerome pull up 3 in the fourth that I'm like, all right, you're good, but you're not that good. And then, that's Drew's play. I remember exactly what you're talking about. It felt like they knew what Kenny drew on the whiteboard in the timeout.
It felt weird because, again, I don't think that anyone was particularly like hot for that matter, but I felt like not Jerome, Hunter was playing much better than like everyone else, and it felt like we again, like Evan, we kind of just didn't feed him the ball. I felt like he took a pull-up 3 that he missed, and I was like, oh, like that's a shame because I feel like, he was feeling it. And then I never felt like I saw him contribute to the game again.
He was
except for like when he was on the ground and then taking free throws.
11 and 4. I mean, he plays 30 minutes. He played a lot, and
it did not feel like I did not feel his presence.
Taking 8 shots and Jerome taking 20 has like seemed like a formula that's worked.
Now that's where you're like, oh man, Darius at least feeds into some better shot attempts. Hopefully,
here's my thing. I still got the Cavs in 6.
That's a fair thing.
Call me crazy. I don't think that's fair. It's one game. I mean, you do lose home court advantage off rip, which is stupid, annoying, pisses me off. But
game 1 is tough.
Game 1's tough. Carlisle, he's not a pushover. I'll tell you though, if I'm him, I'm going to the locker room talking to my guys. I'm saying, guys, great win. We got to limit Donovan Mitchell. He's an all-pro guy. He's an all-star, this and that, blah, blah, blah.
Make everyone else beat you.
And all those things are true. But when the players exit and him and his coaches get together for a meeting, I think he's putting the box score down and going, look at his point. He's going, Donovan Mitchell 13 for 30. We'll live with that.
Yeah.
We'll live with it. With Darius out, we'll live with it.
It was interesting to hear him pregame think that Darius was going to play it, because I think that
the whole question. Oh, and here's the thing. Here's my annual rant and annual monthly daily bitching session for 20 seconds before we sign off here about how are you questionable? And then the pregame reporting is that it's a huge concern.
Yeah.
Which one is it? Like, I get it. Your longevity.
This is the problem with our coverage, though, Jeff, is that like I hate feeding into that, because it's the same thing that we fed into last year with Jared Allen, where it's like,
yes,
he refuses the injection. It's like, why are we making such a deal like out of? I get it. In the grand scheme of things, like toe injuries do not seem like a big thing. You asked me, I think at the very beginning, if I've ever had a toe injury like that. I've never had a toe injury. I had an ankle injury.
Sure.
As far as that goes, I played through it after I missed a game.
Yep.
And I was not nearly, for the return of my junior year, I was not nearly as good as I was through the regular season. However, I think I was better than the person who was behind me. And that is what was more important than being like, I'm 80% of what I am. I'm gonna sit out and let my team fight for the playoffs, fight for the next, to be able to play another game. And at some point, that has got to take over in not just in Darius's mind, but in players who are like soft tissue.
You got to suit up.
Hands on knees. Like, again, I was always one of those people where it's like, you've got to show more spine than the other team. Yep. And that's a point that I thought I made earlier, was like, there were just points where, DeAndre's kind of milking it. Donovan's kind of milking it, and you see the Pacers, they're kind of like right back into the huddle right after every like timeout break, whatnot. So, moving forward, final thoughts here. I really think the Pacers played extremely well.
Yep.
Like probably one of their best games in the playoffs so far. And the score is 121-112. I think the Cavs will still win in 6. I don't think 5 is any more likely, but my prediction will be Darius Garland returns for game 2. Doesn't blow up, but the rest of the team does, and the Pacers suck at shooting threes.
Fair enough. Pacers 19 of 36 from the 3-point line, 52.8%. Cavs 9 of 38 for 23.7%. I hear what you're saying. Darius plays and is even 70%. You don't have Wade playing 16 minutes. You don't have Okoro playing 15 minutes and being non-factors. 31 minutes from those guys, 2 points.
And here's the thing I'll make a point of really quickly, and I don't want to drag on Okoro. When the Pacers swung the ball and they ended up with a dude in the corner about to shoot a 3, Jeff made the point in the pregame. They're amazing at shooting corner threes. The Cavs did it similarly, but man, I'll tell you what, when I saw Okoro get the ball in the corner and it was the 4th quarter, it was probably 6 minutes left.
They walked away from him.
I just go, oh no. And sure enough, that thing clunks off of the rim and goes to the rebound. Goes to the Pacers for the rebound. It's just
the Pacers' closest defender didn't even go toward him.
It's just him and Merrill, like where you're like, wow, Hunter and Jerome are just absolutely fantastic. You look at the Pacers and you're like, man, they might not have someone who's fantastic, but everyone on their team knows their roles and knows how to execute it. And you just continue to hope as a Cavs fan and as a Cavs like management person that Okoro will one day like just be able to hit threes in a game where you need it. Not when we're winning, blowing people out and everything. When we
in October.
need it. When we need it. And this dude just cannot for the life of him.
Even that 3 would have been momentum, would have been something.
It would have been huge.
Yeah.
It would have been huge. But of course, it's one of those things where it's just like
clank.
He clanks. You have Merrill in there. Merrill's not really like drilling it like he's supposed to.
Stop starting him, bro.
It's so tough. It's like
start Hunter.
These are and again,
start Jerome.
You sweep a older, way less talented team. You play a team that's way more talented, way younger, and it just shows. Again, if Kenny is the coach that we think he is, coach of the year, he's going to have this team flipped on a switch for game 2, and hopefully it'll be one that they control the majority of.
Let's hope for that. That'd be that's what this team needs. But as far as game 1, 121-112, a loss for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Go down 0-1, lose home court advantage off rip. If you're still here, like button, follow, subscribe, wherever you're at, comment down below. Make sure you're reposting us, sharing us out to all your other friends who are Cavs fans, because we'll be back for game 2 coverage whenever that is. I don't even know when that game is. Is it Tuesday?
No, Wednesday.
They gave us 2 games off? Okay, or 2 days off? Okay. We'll be back for game 2 coverage.
We'll see.
Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you being the pulse of it all. Peace.